Another golden visa program just died, and it has some people declaring that the era of the golden visa is over. I say not so fast. So just recently, we saw the death of a golden visa program that you've probably never heard of. The Netherlands had a 1.25 million euro. They didn't call it really a golden visa, but it was basically an investment residence permit, more designed for people who actually wanted to go and live in the Netherlands. And over the course of almost a decade, they got 10 successful applicants. And they said, this just isn't worth continuing, and they closed it down. There are other countries in Europe that have similarly small golden visa programs. Luxembourg has one, for example. And when you go up into areas of Northern Europe, you either find countries that just don't want to encourage people to move there based on an investment. Like Norway doesn't need more money, so they don't have an investment residence permit. You get a job or you marry someone, like that's how you go to Norway. Or you'll see programs that just are poorly promoted, are overpriced. I mean, like Germany has some kind of investment visa offering. Luxembourg, the Netherlands did. That wasn't really the area because those countries didn't have the same kind of challenges that a lot of Southern European economies did as part of the PIGS back during the global financial crisis. But there have been other golden visas that have gone away in the recent past. Ireland closed its program down. Latvia made some changes, threatened to close it, brought it back. Portugal was a roller coaster of a ride, ultimately brought it back, but without some of the options, including anything having to do with real estate. And there was an article about killing the golden visa goose by Kathleen Petticord, where she said this is officially the end of an era for golden visas in Europe. She mentioned the programs that I'm talking about alongside the UK's investor visa, which was closed down in the days before the Russia-Ukraine war started. She also mentions things which aren't golden visas, which are citizenship by investment programs. Like in 2020, Cyprus closed its citizenship by investment program. In 2022, Montenegro, having extended its by a year, closed that program as well. Before we go any further, what is a golden visa? A golden visa is a way to get a residence permit, not citizenship, but a residence permit that in some cases may lead to citizenship by making an investment. You generally don't need to go and live there. And that's one reason why I think the Netherlands golden visa just didn't really work out, is it was really designed for people who wanted to live there. If you spent the vast majority of your time living in the Netherlands, paying taxes because there was no tax incentive, and then if you wanted to become a citizen, you had to give up your previous citizenship to be Dutch. The whole thing wasn't really conducive to what most people want a golden visa for, and it had a much higher price tag than other countries did, ostensibly because the Netherlands didn't have the need for the capital. But a golden visa is streamlined. Here are the options where you can invest. And so when they came online, it was mostly, hey, put €500,000 into real estate. And people would just go and buy a home in Portugal or in Spain or more recently in Greece. Italy has its own golden visa program, which has fewer options. You probably haven't heard of that one either, but they recently actually lowered prices because it was just so uncompetitive. And so you've got a lot of different golden visa programs. What they share is you don't have to live in the country. You can live in the country for as long as you want, but you don't have to live there. So Portugal's golden visa, which has now kind of more clearly come back, says you have to spend 7 days per year effectively in the country to keep that residence permit active. If you want to spend more time, you can, but the choice is yours. And Portugal's actually allows you to apply for citizenship after 5 years of living there, even though you haven't even spent those days in the country. Others like Spain and Greece and Italy actually do require you to be in the country. But again, it gives you an optionality that a different kind of residence permit that you might invest nothing or a lot less money for wouldn't give you. There are many other residence permits in Europe, which is kind of the home to the golden visa originally, that say, hey, here's your residence permit. It's pretty easy to qualify, but you have to be here 6 months a year. You may then have to pay taxes if the country doesn't have a special tax incentive. And so for someone who just wants the benefit of a plan B, a residence permit that requires you to be there all the time isn't going to scratch that itch. And yet I think that reports of the death of golden visas are exaggerated for a couple of reasons. One is Portugal and Latvia actually didn't close their programs. They still exist. They may have fewer options, but they still exist. To fill the void, when some of that stuff was happening towards the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, you saw Italy say, hey, okay, we'll be more flexible on price. maybe we'll bring out some new options. Greece introduced more options. So the programs that still do exist, you actually see more ways to actually qualify far beyond that initial just buy real estate. You can buy bonds, you can have subordinate debt, you can put money in the bank, you can buy stocks, you can buy property, you can have investment funds, you can contribute to art projects, you can invest in companies. I mean, there's really a lot of different options across all these different golden visas, including the ones that you haven't heard of. And so a couple did go away. Again, in the case of the Netherlands, nobody was doing it because it just wasn't competitive. But what I always say is when one door closes, another will open. And so you're seeing talk from countries outside of the European Union, including right next door in Serbia, for instance, where there's talk of a fast track to citizenship for people who spend 1 year living there without even having to learn the language. It's not a golden visa because it may not even require an investment, but more options are coming up. You see the UAE has now a golden visa. They've kind of borrowed what was this very European term to describe an investment residence permit. And now, the UAE has numerous different ways that you can get a residence permit. Now, it's not going to have that citizenship component, but the dirty little secret is I'm not convinced that a lot of people ever got Greek citizenship anyway. It's just not something that Greece likes to do. They like to naturalize and give citizenship to people who are ethnically Greek. That was always a tough one. The places where these golden visas will exist are changing because a golden visa was just kind of a name that was glommed onto by the media that says you invest money in a country and you get a residence permit that gives you optionality. It's designed for someone who may not want to be here. It's designed for the person who has a summer home and doesn't want to deal with tourist visas because maybe they want to stay a little bit longer than the tourist visa allows, which in the case of Europe, Schengen areas, 90 days out of every 180. Maybe you want to spend 4 months in Italy in the summer. And how do you do that, right? You need some kind of golden visa. You need some kind of residence permit. But you don't want to commit to always being there. You're seeing more places in the Americas. You're seeing more countries in Asia opening up what's called My Second Home programs now. So Malaysia started My Second Home. Now you see it in Indonesia. You can go live in Bali or Cambodia. There was even talk that would lead to citizenship, although I'm not so sure anymore. Dubai, there's always been other places in the Gulf that have that. I mean, you're going to see a proliferation of more investment residence permits all around the world. You've already seen more countries offer citizenship by investment. The issue that may affect you is, yes, there are still golden visas in Europe, and there's still a decent number of them. It's not like there's one left. But what I always say is, if there's a program that you like, you should do it now. Because Portugal raised its prices. Greece, in some of the most popular areas, raised its prices. These countries tend to raise their prices because what you don't realize is, in some of these countries, 90% of the interest comes from people who aren't Western. It comes from folks who are trying to buy their way into more opportunities and buy their way into having a plan in case things in their country don't go well, because they're used to things in their country not going well. And so once these countries raise enough money, we see in Portugal, they want to close the tax incentive program. We've made enough. It's not bringing more people in, they claim. Now, whether that's right or wrong, that's what they're doing to make sure they can keep getting reelected. And so the idea that there's always going to be golden visas around is not correct. I do think over time, the European Union wants people to go and live and pay taxes there. The countries themselves want you to go and bring capital into their country. So they have these golden visa programs. In Malta, they have a citizenship program, close to $1 million, wait 18 months, get citizenship. You don't really have to go and live there for very long. I think over time, a number of these programs will either become more expensive, become convoluted, and the investment options won't be as appealing, or they'll just, outright go away. If you want that access to be able to live in Europe whenever you want, which obviously in the Schengen area where Portugal and Italy and Greece and most of these countries are, means you can kind of move around freely. And if you want the ability to get citizenship, in some cases without even having to live in the country, now would be the time to do it. And so that to me is the warning cry. Not that it's over, because people read headlines that someone's talking about closing their program and it turns out they don't close the program. What I want you to consider is this. There's a lot of different options, not just in Europe, but also all around the world. It may be that you don't need a golden visa if you actually want to move to a country. Maybe you need a self-sufficient residence permit. It may turn out that if you just want a second passport, the golden visa eventually leads to, just get the second passport now, either through descent or through investment or through some other way. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to residence and citizenship. And so what Nomad Capitalist helps people do is sort through all the different options out there. We've got a research team that goes around it at times. We're literally knocking on doors in countries trying to get the real scoop that you can't find online. And we've had people tell us, I wish I would have hired you years earlier because the cost of having to figure it out ourselves was just too high, both in terms of money, in terms of cleaning up mistakes, and in terms of just the time of figuring it out. I mean, literally, there are some countries where we get on a plane and go there. I've been doing it for a long, long time, and now I've taught some people in the company how they can do it too. You can do that for yourself, but it's probably a lot easier just to hire someone to say, here's all of your options. Tell me what you want to accomplish first, though, because I don't want to sell you a golden visa if this thing that doesn't require any investment will actually work. If you actually need a passport, you don't need a residence permit. Or maybe you need a residence permit and a passport. Like, whatever you want to accomplish may have different, results. Every plan that we create is unique. And so if you want to, rather than just buying a golden visa that your friends bought off the shelf, look at, dozens of different options and actually have someone tell you how those options can serve in a holistic way, working all together, not just like one shiny object and then, I need more shiny objects. Like, how do I create something that actually works holistically? That's what we do here at Nomad Capitalist. And if you go to nomadcapitalist.com, you can learn how you can take advantage of that. If you have $500,000 a year in income or more, or you have a low seven-figure net worth or higher, either one of those would be happy to help you get a return on investment by giving you an unbiased view of the facts and helping you figure out everything together. It could be bank accounts too, it could be asset protection, could be tax savings, any number of things. It all starts at nomadcapitalist.com because some opportunities may die, but there are plenty of more opportunities out there.